Hello lovelies, how are you all doing? I hope you're really well. I am. I'm perched in a really odd position because I'm going to show you in the fridge in a sec. So yeah, I stashed my boxes for parcel making there. Yes, so it is, we were actually at the end of September, I think it's about the 29th. You'll probably not see this until well into October, but that's fine because it's not really a time specific one. The reason I'm mentioning the date is because I've literally just had 2 weeks of visitors. You saw Richard and Paul and then my cousin Ben and Kate, and it's been absolutely glorious. I have loved every single second of it. And you know, that was one of the big things for me moving here. And when I was searching is I wanted a kitchen big enough for a kitchen table. That's one of my great joys in life, is to entertain. It's not about fancy dinner parties and fancy food. It's just that bringing together of loved ones around a table. I love a noisy mealtime of food being shared and chatter and laughter. And so yeah, brilliant. Makes me very happy. Now, this it's not a downside. It's just, you know, a fact. It's obviously it costs a bit more. I'm spending more on food because I'm feeding 3 mouths for a week instead of 1 mouth. And so because of that, I'm going to try and have a no spend week of food. Hence we'll buy the fridge and then we're going to go over to the other side of the room and I'm going to show you what I'm doing. But yeah, I'm going to try and have a no spend week, and I might even see if I can stretch it to 2 weeks. 2 weeks of no food spending. So, and now I've got to get myself upright again. I show you what's in the fridge. There's little bits of leftovers. There's a cucumber from Richard and Paul, and there's a few bits and bobs from Kate too. My guests have contributed. That's not like it's cost me. Not at all. It's my absolute delight and pleasure. I'm just being practical. Right, so what's left in the fridge after a fortnight? Eek, there's not a lot. So I've got my usual, I've got my sunflower and pumpkin seeds, I've got some mixed nuts right at the back, and then some cashews. And then I remembered last night, because I did some cooking last night and I had to rejig the freezer a bit, that I'd got a block of feta that I'd bought a few weeks ago. It's the Stamford Street one from Sainsbury's, so it was quite cheap. 1 pot of yoghurt, that will do me 2 puddings and some blueberries. So I've got 2 puddings there, or, you know, breakfast even. Tiny bit of leftover swede. I had 1 big swede. I used half of it when I was cooking for Ben and Kate, and the other half, well, normally when I use a swede, I cut it in half, and that does for 1 pot of, say, fasolada of 6 portions and 1 pot of a soup of 5 or 6 portions. But this swede was so big that I got 2 halves and a bit extra, so there's that to use up. Then here I've got, this is a courgette curry made a couple of weeks ago. That's for lunch today, and then that's a curry for tonight. So last night I did do a bit of cooking. I made another pot of fasolada, which will do 6 portions. I had 1 portion last night, so there's 5 portions in the freezer. Take note, because we're going to talk about maybe 2 weeks of food. Then also yesterday, because I had some mushrooms which are just about to go, quick, so I've made another, it's a sort of a pasta bolognese type sauce using mushrooms. So there's 1 there, that's for tomorrow night's supper. The other 3 are in the freezer. So that's 5 fasolada, 3 bolognese, that's 8. Plus I've got, I think, 4 portions of curry in the freezer as well. So then that's 12. So I've got 12 evening meals if I didn't do anything else. I've got, this is where I'm getting a bit thin on the ground now. So 1 white, 3 red onions. In the door it's just, you know, the mustard and garlic and that kind of stuff. So don't need any of those. I've got 2 things of oat milk for porridge, so that's okay. And then finally, I'm going to just bring you in here so I can get in as well. One of the things I really like about this fridge, it's Bako. This salad crisper drawer works really well at keeping things crisp. So I've got in here, it's real leftovers now. So a bit of Savoy cabbage, there's a bit of cauliflower, there's a bit of broccoli, there are some, I've got 4, actually they're not bad size, 4 carrots, and then a bit of spinach. Now, the spinach says used by the 27th, actually. That's fine. If I get it cooked today, so it's 2 days post due, but that's what I mean about this crisper drawer seems to work really well. So, right, let's not stand with it open any longer. Let me crouch down. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get everything out. I'm going to put it on the side in the kitchen and go through everything I'm going to make. So there's hardly anything in the fridge, but I'm going to use these, the store cupboard and my garden to hopefully come up with a couple of weeks, well, at least 1 week worth of eating. And it'll be good eating. Oh my goodness. Well, now I've got everything out of the fridge and the cupboards, it's all on the kitchen counter, I'm thinking, yes, I'm going to eat really well. Yummy. So all the kind of leftover little bits of green, the cabbage, the cauliflower, the spinach, the broccoli. The broccoli is actually dated 26th of September and it's still really firm. And of course the stalk too, because I'll make this a blended soup. So all my green leftovers plus that bit of the leftover swede, and that will act as a thickener. Yum. Now, the only thing is, looking at my onions, my onions aren't going to spread across everything unless I use, this is quite a big one, I could have half of that onion in here. But what I am thinking is I can do a ton of garlic and some garam masala, so give it that lovely warmth. I think brassicas are lovely with some of the sort of the curry type spices. So that, I reckon with a litre, I reckon I'm going to get 4 portions out of that. So that's 4 lunches. Brilliant. Coming around the other side of you. Then I've got the feta that came out of the freezer. Oh, in terms of how does feta do once it's been frozen? It's, you know, taste-wise, absolutely perfect. I just find it's a bit more crumbly out of the freezer. But then again, feta's for crumbling on stuff, isn't it? So I've got the feta that was in the freezer from right back at the beginning of the summer. I've still got so many tomatoes coming, brilliant. I've got the cucumber from Richard and Paul. I've got a whole pot of olives and a red onion. So what I would normally do is half a cucumber, half an onion, half the feta and half the olives would do 2 portions. So I can just double it up. That would be 4 portions. Brilliant. And in terms of, I hope it goes without saying, but things like all my spices, herbs, oil, lemon juice, vinegar, that sort of thing, they're store cupboard staples anyway. So I can make a lovely dressing. Oh, and of course with garlic, I've got tons of garlic. So that's 4 portions. So so far that's 8 lunches easily. And then with the leftover carrots and, bring you over. So leftover carrots, some leftover celery. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 quite big stalks and some actually tons of leaves, because I always store my celery in a jar of water and they sprout. Great, I'm getting more bang for my buck. So this is my sort of carrot and celery soup. So all this leaf, great. So carrot, celery, and then again, always in the store cupboard. This is my last bit of orange lentils. So I might think to myself, I will make a note that in 2 weeks' time, when I start doing my food shopping again, to get a bag of lentils and that nice big white onion. So like I said, this might get shared with the greens soup. It might all go in here, but certainly some garlic too. Shall I woman handle you down the counter? Ignore the sink. We're coming down. And then, so we're getting sort of into main meals again now. Shall I tip you down a little? So like I said, I've just worked, it's actually 3 portions of curry in the freezer. So 3 curry, 3 bolognese, 5 fasolado. So I've got 11 meals in the freezer. And then, of course, the lovely beetroots that Kate brought from their garden. This is Kate and Ben, cousin Kate. I've already had the tops off. They were eaten because otherwise they're going to wilt pretty quickly. So I'm going to do beet burgers. So to add to them, I would normally do kidney beans. I haven't got any kidney beans, so I'll just use some cannellini beans. That's fine. Oh, it's a tiddly onion. I might nick a bit of the Greek salad onion. I might swap the two onions because this one's smaller for the salad. Have the bigger one for this. A bit of flour. Again, it's, you know, store cupboard stuff, spices. I didn't bring all the spices out, but adding my spices. So I'll make 4 patties with this lot. So that's 2 evening meals, and with it I can have a portion of chard. I'll do some steamed chard with just a really simple lemon dressing. Or, because I've got kale coming now, I could have some steamed kale with them. Again, give it a bit of a dressing, just jazz it up a little bit. Brill. So I've got 11 in the freezer, that's plus 2, so we're now up to 13 evening meals. Then I will make, again, it's such fab store cupboard eating. This is my chickpea and cashew curry. Now, this is just representative, that's a tin of tomatoes. I won't use a tin of tomatoes, of course, because I've got my own tomatoes, yay! So I'll either take some out of the freezer, or I've got more that have just ripened over there, so I'll just whiz up those. But otherwise, tin of chickpeas from the cupboard, cashew nuts, all the different spices and things that I always use, another tiddly onion, but it'll do. Oh, and garlic for this as well, and some mustard. That's mustard ancienne. And if that's, so that will do about 3 portions, so 11, 12, 13. So I'm up to about 16 portions. So I know that with all my little bits and bobs, my leftovers, the beetroot gifts, the cucumber gift, little bits and bobs, I can do 2 weeks of evening meals easily. And of course, with all of that, with whatever I'm having, I can have fresh chard and fresh kale as my greens to add to it. And if I fancied more tomatoes with something, I've got fresh tomatoes too. Let's say I want a snack. Moving into the snack department, I've got some chickpeas and some tahini, so of course, and garlic, make my own hummus. I've got some rice cakes. I bought these for the chaps. They've hardly had any, so great. Hummus and rice cakes as a snack. Also for snacking, so I mentioned I've only got 2 portions of yoghurt as pudding, but of course I've got all the lovely apples, the eating apples that Kate brought. And this is what I'm really excited about, and I'm going to get on with this afternoon. This is just a few, I think there's 2 or 3 other biggies. These are the cooking apples she brought. So what I will do with these is I will stew them down, puree them. So I won't add any sugar. You can add sugar, you can add honey, whatever it is to your sweetness level, but I'm trying to do it. There's enough sugar in them. Get them pureed and then get them divvied out. The idea was to then, freeze small portions so that I can have it with my porridge in the winter. But also I could have it, and I haven't had this for years. Brown rice, just boiled plain brown rice and pureed apple, so obviously heat the apple back up. That's a really, really lovely pudding or breakfast, or gosh, that would be a big snack, but yeah, a pudding or a breakfast, brown rice with pureed apples, lovely. And of course you can add a little bit of cinnamon to it as you're doing it, or a little bit of nutmeg, all those lovely flavours that go with apples. You could even, I don't have any, but if you had something like some sultanas, as you're stewing your fruit, pop the sultanas in, they'll plump up too. Or pop them in, if you're going to puree it, pop them in after pureeing. Really, really, really lovely, cosy comfort food as the days are getting a bit darker and a bit chillier. I think that looks like, let me see if I can give you a shot of it all. This is going to be clunky, but I think that is a really lovely lot of food for the next couple of weeks, including, of course, the Greek bean stew, the curry and the bolognese in the freezer, and the fresh stuff that's still to come in from the garden. Yummo! I'm looking forward to all of that. I'm really looking forward to having the stewed apples. Oh gosh, it's been a long time. Where I used to live in London, one of the pubs had a big apple tree in their yard, a cooking apple, Bramley apple, and I remember seeing it, I don't know, 13, 14 years ago, noticing all the windfalls. It's like, is your chef not going to use them? It's like, can I take some? They were like, oh, please do, save them rotting on the ground. So it was like, yeah, thank you, a ready supply of cookers for me to stew for my winter treats. Lovely. There's something about, you know, we want warm, comforting bowls of food in the winter, don't we, anyway? But I think there's something particularly comforting about any stewed fruit, but stewed apples with, like I said, maybe just a little bit of cinnamon or nutmeg or cloves, that sort of thing added. Ooh, ooh. Oh, I'm just thinking, but it's too long in the oven and I don't have any sultanas. I suddenly fancy an apple volcano. That's what we call them, apple volcanoes. You know, when you core out the middle and stuff it with sugar and sultanas, and sometimes you can put orange juice in, or if you're being luxe, you could put a bit of Cointreau in. Not that I have that kind of thing in the house, but yeah, an apple volcano. Anyway, really looking forward to that. Right, so, and in other news, also in the kitchen, a couple of purchases. Last week, when did I get them? It doesn't matter. There are kitchen items, but they're not going to stay in the kitchen. So I bought a pot of, it's just chili powder. I've never heard of this thing before, Funky Soul. It was in Budgeons. So I've got some chili powder, and I've got 2 gorgeous Isle of Wight garlic bulbs. So this is for gardening. So the chili powder, because I'm getting to that time of year when I'm thinking about, I'm getting around to it, I'll be sowing my broad beans. And what I found, well, in one year in London, I sowed all my beans and then came back 2 days later and there were little holes above every bean station. And considering I plant them sort of every 20 centimetres or so, and I must have planted 20, 40, 60, about 100 sowed, should I say. I'm not planting plants, I'm sowing seeds. They were all gone to the mices. The cats weren't doing very well that year. So I re-sowed, but in each little sowing hole I put a pinch of chili powder because I heard it puts the mice off. And I don't want to jinx myself, but I repeated that every year since then, since that losing them all time. And after that I never had a mouse problem again. So I presume it's the smell. Does the smell disguise the smell of the bean? Or is it such a horrible smell to the mice they stay away completely? Is it the taste? Is it, you know, as they burrow down and they get to the chili and they go, ooh, no, I don't know why it works, but it works. So that's chili for my broad bean harvest or planting. And obviously there's quite a lot in here, and it's as best before this time next year, so it should do for next year's planting as well. Great. And the Isle of Wight garlic is for me to plant too. It wasn't cheap. I think it's about £1.50 a bulb. That's quite a good size one. So I've got these 2, plus I've got some bog standard garlic as well. So I don't know how far these will go, but if I've got any space left, I'm just stop putting any others in anywhere. But I'm really delighted to try them because, I mean, it's literally just across the water. Hang on, where am I? It's just across the water from me. It's a short hop. Whoop, they land here. Great. Really, really tiny food miles. You can, I believe, not from the company that sells them as food, but I believe you can buy Isle of Wight garlic for planting. I have no idea how much it is. You'll have to have a look. But like I said, these are about £1.50. But of course, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, 7, about 8. There's about 8 cloves in there. So it's maybe 20p a clove, and of course 1 clove should hopefully fatten up and become a whole bulb. So it will be a whole bulb for 20 pence. If you've never grown garlic before, I'll talk more about this when I come to plant it, because it's one of those, it's great if you've got a really small garden like I have, even a window box, even a pot on the windowsill. They don't take up much room, but it's just one more thing you can add to your repertoire to bring your shopping bill down, is to have your own garlic. So I'm really, really excited to try them. I'm trying to contain the excitement just in case they don't work as well as I hope. But anyway, good. In other news, oh yes, I noticed I was dropping a book back at the library. No, I wasn't dropping a book back. I've ordered a book. I went online and I thought I saw that they had the book, but it wasn't at my library, it was another one. So I went in to order it, to ask them to get it for me. More of that once I've got it. I'm really excited to read it. When I mentioned it to the lass who was on the counter that day, she said, "Oh, my mum's just read that. She was raving about it." So more of that. But whilst I was there, I noticed, it starts in October, they have a knit and natter group, but it says, bring your knitting, stitching or crocheting, enjoy a free hot drink and a natter with our friendly group. Sweet. So that's 2 hours on a Monday morning. Now the only thing, I'm tempted, because my patchwork quilt, my handmade English paper piece patchwork quilt has not been touched for about 20 years. And I was thinking maybe this would be my chance to finally get on with my quilt and meet some people too. But it's in the daytime. I really wanted an evening knit and natter, stitch and gossip group, whatever you want to call it, because that's working hours. Of course, my work is flexible, so I could go and then just say, right, I start work at 1 p.m. and work through till 10 p.m. I'll probably do anyway. Yeah, I might see. The other thing is that there might be retired people, and I don't have anything against retired people, of course I don't. I just like a mix. It's nice to have a mix of people, both ages and what people do in their life, whether people are retired or working or, you know, full-time stay-at-home parents, whatever it is. I like to have a mix of people, so I might go and check it out. What's the harm in checking it out once? And they don't necessarily need to give me a free hot drink. Maybe I'll take my own peppermint tea back. It's probably tea and that's it. But yeah, I thought it's nice that they offer that. It's lovely. They have all sorts of groups going on. There's a games afternoon. I really want to join in. And you can take your own board games, although they have board games too. But it's aimed at kids and families. And it's like, is it too weird for a single woman to go to a family thing? I don't know. Maybe if I let them know that obviously my DBS check is out of date now, but to say, I'm not weird. I don't want to play with kids because I'm a weirdo, although that sounds really weird. Yeah, the idea of going and playing board games. And also what's lovely is they always have a jigsaw on the go. A couple of weeks ago, it was an Angela Harding illustration. It's one of hares. She does great hares. It was hares and fields and trees. It was lovely. Didn't have time to stop and play though. The one the other day when I popped in it was quite cute actually. It was New York. It was sort of iconic scenes of New York, but graphically done. Cute. Yeah, just general loveliness everywhere. And talking of books, this wasn't a library book. I picked this up. I saw it in my local, I have an Oxfam, a second-hand Oxfam here. So the books are always quite a bit more than a charity shop. The paperbacks are usually £3.99, £4.99. But I saw this and I thought, he's an author you know I love, I've got to give this a go, and now I've given it a go, I'll pop it in my shop so someone else can have a go. I got a copy of La Vie by John Lewis Stemple, A Year in Rural France. So I've talked about him before. I got started on him a couple of years ago with Meadowland, which I think is still my favourite. But then I read Running Hare, which is about the farmland. There's Cockshut Wood, which is all about his year in the woods. The Glorious Life of the Oak, the Night Walking book. So this is a bit of a departure. So he and his wife, they had a farm. I need a glug of water. They had a farm in Herefordshire, which is in England. For those who don't know, it's England, but it borders Wales. Beautiful part of the country, very rural still. But now, and I want to check up a bit more. I think the idea was to go off to France for a year, but I think they're staying. So they are in which region? I'm so sorry, I've forgotten already. They're down south. Not Provence, that's too populated. They might be towards in the Lot region. I can't remember. I'm so sorry, but they're in it's southwest France. Very, very rural. Title: A Year in Rural France. This is their gaff, and rather than being a farmer now, he is a. How does he describe himself? And I rather liked it. He's it's now what he calls peasant farming. So the scale is much, much lower. Did I make a number of his sheep? So for example, in the UK, he had 120 sheep on his farm, and they're now down to 5 sheep. So it's more like what we would think of, say, as a small holding, but with a potager garden and a vineyard. So the potager garden, I think the concept of pottagers actually came out of France, but I suppose it's in a way what I'm doing on a tiny scale in my garden, which is it's fruits, vegetables, herbs, flowers, all your different, everything's sort of all in together. So yeah, I mean, it's a massive downsize in terms of, say, livestock, but I guess they're developing the vineyard side of things. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous read. It's a little bit, where do we start? We start in winter, we start in January, but there's something about the book that just feels like summer the whole time, because of course down there they have that light and warmth for much, much, much longer in the year. So for me, as a summer lover and a dreader of winter, having read it just now, it's like, oh, I feel like I've just clung to the summer a little bit longer. Beautiful. So it's, at first, in the first 50 pages or so, I thought, oh, I'm not sure. It's a bit of a departure. I'm not sure. But I got into it. One of the reasons I wasn't sure is because there are some quite short, I'm going to try and find a bit now. There are some quite short, sort of snippy sections. I'm not going to be able to show you. So, for instance, this is one section, ends here. This is another little snippet, ends. We start another snippet. It felt a bit like, and you can see. So initially, I thought, oh, it's a bit like he's grabbed his notebook and just copied out his notes and published it, rather than taking those notes, fleshing them out for us. And I thought, I think that's a bit naughty. Come on, flesh it, please. But like I said, after about 50 or 60 pages, I sort of got used to it, forgot about that completely, and really thoroughly enjoyed it. Again, it's a really short book. That was the other thing I thought, is this just notes? Is he being lazy? It's 194 pages. Yeah, that was my thoughts at first. Is he being lazy? Is he just churning out too many books now? Maybe he needs to take a couple of years off writing and come back to it again with all that sort of passion and vigour that was so obviously there in Meadowland. But like I said, he turned it around for me. It's gorgeous. What notes did I make? I didn't make many notes because I was enjoying it so much. Yeah, it's definitely peasant farming, small holding. It's self-sufficiency rather than, it's basically he's doing enough, he's growing enough for him and his family, rather than for marketing and selling in order to make profit. There's a few recipes dotted throughout, that's quite fun. One word as well, though, is that there's a smattering of French throughout. Little odd words are picked out in French. And it was only when I was about halfway through I suddenly thought, I wonder if that would affect someone's reading if they didn't speak French. So at first it didn't bother me. I mean, I'm not fluent in French, not by any means, but I can read French. So it didn't bother me at all. So after about halfway, I was trying to be mindful about what would it be like for someone to read who has no French. Because sometimes he does translate it. He'll use a word and then brackets and he'll give the English, but not always. I don't think it would matter. I don't think it would matter. I was thinking if this was in German or Italian or Spanish. But I think within the context of a sentence, and so many of our words, we take, our roots are in all sorts of different languages, that I think if you have even a slight mind for languages, let's say you've learned Italian and you've never learned French. I think the chances are there'll be some French words you probably get within the context, in the same way that I sometimes read an Italian word, but in context I understand it, even though I've never learned Italian. Go figure, I don't know how that works. I think you'll get what I mean. So, yes, there was that, but I don't think it's not going to spoil it for anyone. It's really lovely. Thank you, Mr. Lewis Stemple. Oh, and he gave me a follow on Instagram. I'd put his night walking book on my Instagram, and then he left a comment and he said something like, that looks like just my kind of walk, and followed me. How thrilling. It's funny, I've mentioned this before in terms of actors and whether you're a Hollywood A-lister or whatever. I've never ever been starstruck by actors. I was an actor. Why would I be starstruck by someone in my own profession? Never happened. I've worked with and I've dealt with A-listers. Never fazed me. When it comes to writers, I get really starstruck. And I think that's because I have so much admiration for what they do with their craft. So that time when Patrick Leigh Fermor, the travel writer, the Greek travel writer, came into the shop and we had a conversation, and he revealed himself at the end to be Patrick Leigh Fermor. My knees were shaking, my heart was pounding, I was so excited. So yeah, when Mr. Lewis Stemple gave me a comment and a follow on Insta, I was like, texted Paul straight away, John Lewis Stemple just followed me on Insta. You'll probably never look at anything else on there, but for a moment it was fun. If you see a copy, I'm going to put this in the shop. If you see a copy, grab it. I think it's a really lovely, it's very, unlike, very quickly, I was supposed to be doing a quicker one today. All of his other books, it's very, very, very much about the nature, and the characters in the other books it's the birds, it's the badgers, it's the trees, whatever it is. This one is a slight departure in that the characters, it is the humans, it's the people in the village, the other farmers, the people he meets and does business with, and how he comes to terms with the bureaucracy of living in France. It's a very bureaucratic country. So that's a really nice departure in a way. Of course, there's tons in there still about the flora and fauna and how he immerses himself in it. Gorgeous. Summit in a book. I need to reread it. All right, lovelies, that was long and waffly, and I didn't intend it to be, so I'm going to shut up now and see you all again really soon. What will be next? I think we'll do the Q&As next. I know I said that in the last one, we'll do them next. So until then, my lovelies, please take care of yourselves. Make the most of whatever's left in your fridge. And I think sometimes get it out of the fridge, put it on the side, grab a few bits from the pantry, tins of this, that and the other, have a look at it and think, right, how can I stretch this to another week of meals and come up with some goodies? For now though, until the next one, cheerio.